not just sit in the front seat. Someone sitting here, or
someone is here, but there is a lot of space. You can move that.
Are you doing voice AI?
Yes, I'm working on a project.
What are you working?
Ask follow-up questions, stuff like that. How about you? That's right. Oh, that's what they're saying. Enjoy the space.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of space.
And good to meet you. We'll stay in touch as well.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, did you guys want to sit next to each other?
No, we're just talking.
No, we're just
I drew it out.
Okay.
On stage. We will. Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good. Excited to talk about voice AI. I'm Patrick. I'm here with Rime. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. Varun is the Chief Product and Technology Officer from Daily, and he's going to be moderating the panel and introducing the presenters. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started.
I am Varun. Quickly, I think the panelists will introduce themselves at the best to that themselves. But I'm super happy that everyone's here, and somehow we've arranged ourselves in a pipeline. So we have the speech to text and then text to speech. Which is always good. That means that we will go this way.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Takuya from AssemblyAI, doing Director of Research there, and we are building speech recognition models and some social models and speech visualization and text processing. So looking forward to chatting with you.
I have one.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, so I'm John. I work at AWS. I'm a Generative AI specialist and based here in the city, so happy to talk to you all.
And I'm Brooke Larson. I do text-to-speech at Rime. I'm one of the co-founders there. And we do naturalistic enterprise speech models.
So, as you know, we are all voice AI, and this year has been a year of voice AI. So, super exciting year. It's December, so our talk on the agenda is going to start with what's been happening in 2025. And typically, the question is what makes them natural or what makes them human. Let's start with it. I think there are a lot of people who come here for the first time. There are people who've done this, been at our events several times. So let's start with that, and we'll take it from there.
All right. So the question of natural instruction, I think for speech recognition, the beginning of 2025, the latency was not necessarily great. So a lot of effort from ourselves and also other companies for speech recognition have been put into reducing the processing latency, especially when in endpointing, so that you can trigger the following processing steps like allowing the model and TTS, and some of the models are already integrated these new capabilities like endpointing naturally into the house, so that you can actually do speech recognition and endpointing all together. So that was the main advancement from my point of view in 2025, along with performance improvements in general accuracy and marketing models. So yeah.
All right, one of the things I'm really excited about this year is to see that we have advancements in each of the steps, just like we're saying. We have the speech to text, we have the generation, we have the text to speech. But we are seeing also that we have models now that can do directly speech to speech. Which can reduce drastically the overall latency and the perceived latency for the solutions. One of the things I'm actually really excited about is I see everything becoming agentic. So we used to have really pipeline, and I know Pipecat is very, very pipeline oriented, and it's still very exciting. But we have the possibility now to do asynchronous tool calls that allow us to use multiple models, one for the orchestration of your conversation and one for actually fulfillment of what the user is trying to do, which gives you so much more flexibility. So I think that's what excites me right now.
Yeah, when I think about like voice naturalness, I'm thinking of it from the speech side, how I'm talking right now, how you talk with your friends. This is, to my mind, natural. But as things sort of progress over the course of the years, we have this sort of notion, I think created by a sort of artificial technological limitation that forces us to focus on particular types of voices, say like what is possible. So like in the sense of like the Stephen Hawking style voice, or everybody's pretty relatively familiar with like Morgan Freeman as like a type of voice. But I think these are artifacts of technological limitations. And so what I get excited about going forward is breaking away from those boundaries, those previous technological limitations, where these people sound really great, but they're kind of cartoon characters to some degree. And where I think the real mind-blowing stuff that's going to be happening is, again, for various purposes, but people talk like me, people talk like you, people who stutter, people who do false starts, and that's going to be really mind-blowing when it doesn't sound like a voice actor.
So just staying on the topic, because you talk about tone and processing, do you have like more thoughts on, like coming from a data background as well, like what do you think are the interesting things that you need to do to get there? Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of what we're doing right now, so the LLMs are really powerful just because there's ungodly amounts of text on the internet. There's just tons and tons of it. We're running out apparently, but there's tons and tons of it. It's really clean. You don't have like half of an R on your text. It's really clean. Voice is something really different. We have really garbled nonsense all over the place, and you have really genre-specific stuff, like audiobooks, say. Audiobooks are great, but they're really genre-specific. And at least at Rime, the way I see it, because I'm kind of head of data there, is that we're trying to recruit voice that isn't on the internet. And it's as if there was this type of text that wasn't on the internet that was really relevant to business use cases. And so that's what we're really focusing on. Not stuff that, even in a relatively naturalistic setting like a podcast, people are not talking normal, or influencers on YouTube. They're not talking like you actually talk, or that people who work at a call center who know their shit actually talk. And so I think that's what we're going to sort of arbitrage to make things really exciting in the future.
Any other thoughts on other panels?
Maybe to double click on that, I completely agree. Right now, when we do speech synthesis in particular, being able to manipulate a speech synthesis using something different from an XML tag, actually using prompting so that you can make that into a character that reacts well to how the user on the other end is working, and also that is custom built for what you're trying to do, makes all the difference. I don't know if you guys have interacted with Notebook LM. This is super fun to interact with, and it creates these podcasts with interactions with two speakers. The DIA model is just absolutely amazing at doing that. And just like you were saying, it makes all the difference.
So just on the topic, because you brought two speakers, thinking about multilingual or like the two languages, because you're starting to like see conflation of like being able to talk in Spanish and English, which is like the standard example for this. What are your thoughts with the multilingual aspects? How difficult?
I can start. Multilingual understanding is kind of there already. So being able to do transcription in more than one language and detecting when a language goes to another, basically when you switch from French to English to Spanish, is really kind of a solved problem. Doing that with more specific. So we have more and more complexity that go into the pipeline because we have a very different problem space.
Yeah, I think one thing that when you're talking about these potential future cases where we had to talk about muscle memory and the things that we do, like sort of without thinking versus the thinking that's going on behind the scenes, we do this as humans obviously as well. I know I respond quickly with polite things without thinking about them that are like context appropriate. Whereas presumably back in my head, hopefully there's something thinking going on. And I think, that as an analogy to what the future of this might look like is not just metaphorical. I think that's really true. I think a lot of, in principle, we can talk about anything, but I focus on a lot of enterprise use cases where these conversations, you're not talking about like ancient Rome, they're really formulaic. And there's really sort of almost like ritualistic give and take that we do as humans to make ourselves feel comfortable and heard and so on and so forth that doesn't require all the sort of thinking that we often do behind the scenes. And so I think right-sizing these particular tasks for the particular models is something that we're all stumbling towards, but hopefully stumbling towards in sort of rational fashion, and it's getting better. I think that's the case.
I think that was a good summary. So I think we're coming up on time. So very quickly, if, for each one of you, one prediction for 2026. Just one. What do you think? We can start from the end.
I already did my pessimistic moment to navigate some marketplace, and your friendly voice is helping persuade you in one direction. I can see that happening this year.
I've already talked about speech-to-speech, so I'm not going to go there. But one thing that I'm seeing a lot of trends into is, and I find super interesting, is voice coding. So we see a lot of vibe coding, and we see a lot of tools that allow our developers to be more natural language oriented to build out applications. I've seen a lot of them move to actually using voice, talking to your application and having that be the input. With the increase of the cognitive complexity that we can ask from a voice agent, I do believe that this is going to become more prominent in the next year.
Yeah, I agree, and I think as we will see more and more application deployments of them, so that we see a wide, super big adoption in many different areas. So it's going to be I think 2026 is going to be reliability for my market.
Problem going last is that all the good ideas are taken. So my hot take, which would be
Latency. So does that mean if you add a lot of system prompts or guidance to a voice model, it just goes slower and slower, so we shouldn't do too much of that?
So is adding more context, adding more latency to your
Phone on your phone, on your, or sorry, speaker on your phone or computer, is that right?
Yes.
So it's just frequencies pattern mapped to some text representation.
binary representation, but yes. In the end, we're representing sound, and sounds are frequencies and levels. And we go through exactly the same thing as we would go through for signal processing. So basically, we sample over time, and then we discretize. So we put it onto a predefined numbers of values, discrete number of values that give you, hey, this is this sound at that level. And when you play it onto a speaker, it sounds like someone talking.
Maybe we should start with like one new question, and then you guys can discuss.
I see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any question?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is relevant, but specifically for Lily, I think Lily, we were mentioning.
I'm saying really.
Brooke. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. My bad. I think you mentioned the enterprise use case. I'm very curious on what do you think will be changing in 2026 or in the near future in terms of specifically for evaluation. The complexity of the architecture has changed. There's a bigger conversation now around like measuring not just technical like evaluation, but more like business outcomes. Like how many t-shirts has my voice agent said? Where do you think that conversation is going in the near future?
I mean, I think for any given business, they're going to have different targets, different KPIs that they're going to think are relevant, and they might actually be conflicting. So I personally don't have anything particularly smart to say about that because, again, I'm not face-to-face with these customers. But I think in principle, anything can be measured. And so that's just what we're doing currently. I wish I had a stronger answer.
I think in 2025, I mean, in the beginning of the year, I think people cared a lot about the evals in the sense that, well, my bot do the right thing. And I think now we're getting to a scale where that are, like, we've deployed these bots for a few months, like, are they good return on investment? I think they've been in tandem. I think a lot of people deploy, unless you're the enterprise that is deploying it, it's like an internal question, but quite often they're doing it externally with the help of other providers, which means that every time the monthly bill comes up, there's that question, right? Like, we spend $100,000 or $10,000, and so definitely those conversations are going. And I think a lot of people are building with constrained use cases. They want to see how. So if you're building for a customer and it's a land and expand, so you start and take the simplest low hanging fruit, get them to success, and then start to chew more of that like problem space and get them to success iteratively for each of those.
Maybe to add one thing. I work with customers all day, every day. The ones that are successful have identified a critical success factor of anything that they're doing. So basically, you need to know what you're trying to solve as a problem. Just doing a cool voice agent is not enough anymore. It was last year, to be fair. Just most of my customers just building out a voice agent was its own critical success factor. Now you need to define it, and like I will absolutely like back you up on evaluation. Evaluation is key. You need to have a way to identify your metrics, how well you are doing against your metrics, and how well you are doing over time. Because that way you can also make change in your architecture where it makes sense.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the speakers and the panelists for coming over, and thank you everyone. I think we have the space for another 30 minutes.